God was still working on me. And during the pandemic, COVID happened and we're all locked up, and God is just working on my faith. I remember when the hotel shut down because, hello, nobody was traveling. We didn't have business. That was the first time I really prayed. I was like, God, I don't think I'm meant to go back to that job. And this is where it goes beyond just having, not sleeping with anyone. It really becomes this intimate relationship about every area of your life. And when I woke up the next day and I said, okay, I'm not going back. And it really took a faith move to step out and say, all right, I'm not going back. I'm sure my God will provide for me. And he did. And it took faith though, because I didn't know what I was going to do. But one thing I realized during COVID, I was still a small group leader at the time. I was socializing with my girls. I was working on my stuff. I was just doing what I needed to do, and I was in a good space. I was really okay with just being by myself and figuring out what's next. Still desired to be with someone, still, was very committed to like, I'm not doing anything with anyone. And so that was that. I remember that 2020 was also a year where, people just were going through a lot. It was a lot of different things going on, but I was still sticking with a lot of the purpose work that God had for me. And that's why it's so important to have things. Now, the issue was one of my outlets, this is another thing I've been learning, was all of the pent up energy physically that you have when you're waiting, you need to have something healthy to pour it into. And one of the things that I did was I worked out. I ended up really working on my body, really working on my mind, really working on my spirit. So it became this just transformation. But then when COVID came, obviously the gym closed and, so it was a little bit more difficult. But then I ended up going online, ended up finding an online classes on Zoom and started doing that. And that kind of helped me stay connected to people, but still get my workout in when I could. So at least all of that pent up frustration that I would have, I could talk about it. And then I learned just different techniques. Like when I would feel horny or when I felt like really like, okay, God, what do I do? Do I get up? Do I pray to you? So I started saying, Holy Spirit, help me with this. Help me with it. I really started to learn how to lean on God in those moments, because I didn't know how to do it before. Either I would just give into it or I would just whatever. But I found healthy outlets for that. But something in my heart and in my spirit said, share your testimony. And that's when I started my online journaling through Living Purified in 2020. And I was like, nobody is talking about this walk that, this very can be very challenging walk with God in this particular part, not just faith but really waiting on him, going through the ups. I was like, dang, nobody really talks about this. The church don't talk about it. I don't see a lot of like videos on it. And so God really led me to just, what? I remember my therapist was like, you need to journal. And I'm not a huge journal person. I don't be writing down. I just like to talk, or I'll just record myself. That's just easier for me. That's just how I'm wired. And one of the things I realized was doing that journaling of things I wish I would have known, things I wish I would have, all these things. And I remember one of the videos, I guess people really liked it for some reason. They were just like, wow, things I wish I would have known before I did this. And because people just don't know. But one thing I'm learning about God is God never puts you through certain situations just for you. Like your testimony is supposed to bless other people. And the journaling was for me, for me. I wasn't telling other people I was doing it. I literally was doing it for myself. So I could look back, I could have moments. It wasn't this branding thing. I just need to journal. And this is the way I'm going to do it. And I would do late night sessions. I would do just story times. I would do prayers, and it just kept evolving. And then the more I journaled about my faith, the more I got into my word, got closer to God, got, serious about what it is that I'm doing. And then I remember in 2021, I met someone. So here we go again, right? So I met someone, and that was about springtime. And this time, I was like, okay, and mind you, I didn't consult God. I was on the apps, and I was just like, oh, let me just try match with someone. We ended up dating for a little while. Then we got into a relationship by summer. And that relationship was really a testing, because I openly told him that I was waiting, and he said, okay, all right, I know you're waiting. I get it, and I understand, and this is what we'll do. What I realized was, because I never really prayed to God about who I'm supposed to be with, because I didn't even know I was supposed to do that. I thought it was just, you kind of wander around in the earth and then you just keep meeting people. That's what I always assumed. I always assumed that you just keep roaming around the earth and you just bump into people, and every once in a while you get chemistry, and that's what I thought. And so throughout that relationship in 2021, things were going well. And then eventually, the person got baptized, and it was, really good. Like, I saw some growth there, but there was a lot of tension with us. And I think, it's still such a blessing that I met the guy, because you know why? And I didn't slip up. We didn't slip up or anything like that, but boundaries started to slip. I'm not going to lie. Boundaries started to slip a bit, and I had to kind of like reel it in a bit. And so I had to, be prayerful, and even ask him about, like, how is he handling this, because he's never been in a relationship waiting with someone before. So it was new for him too. And so I was like, all right, I don't want to carry this relationship. So if you're doing it for me, this is another lesson I learned. If you're doing it just for me, it won't last. I've already gone through that. That whole, I respect it, I'll try to do it for you. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get pissed. You got to have your own conviction with God. You got to already have some foundational things with him, so that Holy Spirit can work on you. Because I can't convince you that this is the right thing for you. I can't. I've done that whole, oh, okay, as long as you respect it, and, and I keep it moving. Can't do that no more. And so I think for me, I was still prayerful. I didn't ask God whether or not I should be in that relationship. Still wasn't asking if this is really the right relationship for me. But I realized there was still growth, because even though we ended up ending things literally New Year's Day, literally on 2022, there was a lot of lessons I learned about myself and the things that I didn't want to continue doing. And I remember how me and him, we just would clash a lot. And I, to this day, that was the only person I've ever been with where I realized that, I should have been more prayerful once I noticed certain things happening. Because I think I just was like more hopeful. I still kind of had that blind optimism from way back 10 years ago. And I was like, oh, you wish the best. Maybe we're just going through a season. Maybe it's just, but I also know for me, God had to teach me how to rest. I was busybody. I was into every little thing. I was still doing small group. I had to kind of need to take a mental health break that year. It was a really tough year for me. And I was just doing too much. I was doing way too much. I was trying to be everywhere. I was trying to do everything. And God had to really sit me down. And remind you, I left the hotel. I'm still, doing things. And then I ended up getting a contract position for a company. And God really did open that door. I just cannot give him the glory more about that. And it was about 6 months, 8 months, contract. And I was like, okay, cool. Working from home. We still were in the middle of COVID. And I just noticed that me and him were drifting apart. And he knew it too. And I think we were holding on. And there were just certain things I didn't have grace for him. And I felt like the same for me. And I remember how meeting him challenged me in really good ways. Like, I learned a lot of things about myself, and I even documented about one of the things. And some of the things I had to learn was letting go of self-pleasure during that time, because that would come up throughout that time every once in a while. And I had to confess and I had to get accountability. And I remember I was hosting an event, and there was a person that I was interested in a while ago, and I would call up my good girlfriend and I was like, look, I'm headed to this city. I have this person that I don't want to run into. So call me and make sure I'm not with this person, okay? I don't think I'm going to run over there, but just call, so this is where you have to do things like that. It sounds so, oh, you grown, you should, no. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust yourself. And she did. She called me. I was in Atlanta. And I was like, yeah, I can't, and I was hosting a happy, this is right before COVID. So, but I come back to say this, to say, I've always told the women in my group what was happening with me, not every little detail, but most details. I said, this is what I'm going through. This is how things are shaping up for me. And God is still good. And yeah, some years were difficult. And every year I would say it got easier. And I'm not saying that I didn't still have moments of weakness, but when I tell you, when you work that muscle and when you really are obedient to God and you really take away that appetite, God really does help you if you allow him to, if you ask Holy Spirit to do it. And I saw it. And I realized that more people needed help. And that's when the comments from the videos just, more and more people were like, well, what about this situation? I'm in this, and, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I thought to myself, once 2022 came around, let go of that relationship. And God opened the door for me to move again. I'm always moving, right? Move again. And 2022 was one of the most testing of my faith. It was definitely up there, man. Because I didn't realize that once I let go of what God didn't have for me, and, letting go of realizing that situation wasn't going to work out. And God gave me visions and dreams throughout that relationship. I let it go and God opened the door and I ended up moving. Literally the next month, February, got an offer and I ended up moving in May. Well, was it May? Well, it was in the summer. Let's just say it was the summer. My first date was in the summer, like full time was in the summer. And then I ended up moving by the end of the summer. And I remember that summer of 2022. And I remember how I was at a church event. I always remember this. One of my good girlfriends at the time, I knew I was going to stop being a small group leader once I moved again. I said, yeah, this is that last season. I feel like I've given this my all and I'm ready to, this is time to close the chapter. And I remember I went to this singles event. And the reason why I mentioned this is because I was just there to support my good girlfriend. I really wasn't there. Because mind you, I'm knowing I'm moving to another state. And there was this guy that was there that just liked me for some reason. He just did. And, I thought he was okay. He was cool. But I remember that the spirit of discernment was really high for me at that point. Because I started to ask God about people. I started to really dig into when I meet people about their, knowing what questions to ask, and you don't have to criticize someone. You don't have to, insult someone to just know this is not your person. This is not a situation you want to be in. So now I'm on another level of maturity at this point. Now I can meet someone, even if they're interested in me, I can discern a situation and realize this is not right. So we never go on a date. He kind of wanted to. And I was just like, no, let's just have a conversation. And in the one conversation, I realized, yeah, you're not the right person. But I do wish you the best. He's like, well, I could still visit you. I'm like, no. That's the thing about asking God to help you be discerning with your decisions, with the relationships, with your time, with your body. because I didn't know how to do that. But I was learning how to truly develop the fruits of the Spirit, develop self-control, develop patience, develop all of it. It was not an easy thing. And so once I moved, my faith was tested again. And I remember how being away from family was another testing for me, because situation did not fan out the way I thought. So I was a little afraid to go, but I knew it was time to go. And I remember how when I moved again and I met someone, literally I was walking, just chilling, walking, and the guy had a golf course, a little golf cart. I said cart. And, he picked me up. Oh, let me help you out. And I was fine. But, I could tell he liked me. I was just like, okay, who is this person? Because I started sensing, I said, okay, maybe guys. So I had girlfriends that were like praying about who they're meant to be with, who, and I'm like, this is something, can you do that? Is that a thing that you can do? Because I'm just waiting around and I'm like, all right, Lord, we've been in this. And I remember how I had to really let go of a lot of things when I moved again. I had to let go of even the guy I was with in my 20s, his relationship, just his family in general. Like, it was a lot of letting go before I moved on. And I just knew it was time, because he still wanted to be in my life. Even after all those years, he still was hopeful that we would be friends. And right before I left, I kept running away. That's the thing about your past. I was the type to not confront things. I would just run from them. I would escape. I would try to find a way to ignore it, escape it, numb it. And not with drugs, not with alcohol, but just with work or busyness. And I realized that I have to confront things. I can't heal. I can't get better unless I confront it. I got to be self-aware of my own weaknesses. And that's the thing about this journey. It really helps you become a better person. It really clarifies everything in your life. Friends, your career, your purpose, your body. It really puts things in perspective. And one of the things that I realized was, hey, Debbie, I met the guy and I realized, I asked him certain questions, and, I asked him to drop me back off with his golf cart, and he did, and he was interested. Oh, can we talk? And I realized there was something in my spirit, this is not the right person. This is not the right person. This is not the right person for you. And I was like, wow, here we go again. But all right, let's move on. And then I, going to different events, enjoying my life. I met someone that was really cool, but here's that spirit of rejection that I didn't quite heal yet, right? For years, I'm dealing with rejection of making this decision. I meet someone in the new city, and we're supposed to hang out. This is not even supposed to be a date. I don't even know what it was, but I was excited. I was like, oh, he seems cool, and, we were talking and blah, 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 and never called back, just kind of ghosted me. And I had a breakdown. I had a real breakdown, I remember, and I felt it in my spirit, I gotta deal with this rejection. That's the thing about this journey. It keeps showing you new things about yourself that still need to heal, that still need to be addressed, and you can't hide from it. And I had to cry it out. I had to talk to God about it. I had to take my time. And I remember how God was really working on me with worship. Because when I tell you, I found a church back in 2020 and they were open. I was like, what? And I went there and they had worship nights, and my level of faith, my level of my commitment to God just kept rising and rising and rising. I knew how to worship him on another level, and it just really helped me so much. I loved it. But I also was still dealing with a lot of things that weren't good for me, the way I was living my life, the way I wanted to just do it all, the way I was, there was a lot of things internally still that I had to deal with. And I remember when my friend, she was telling me about a faith influencer she had, and she's like, we should do a fast. We should, about relationships, about, God, and just, clarity. And so I did it. I actually took at first I looked at it and I was like, oh, I don't know. And I did it. I committed the rest of 2022 to that fast. And when I say God kept showing up, and that's when I realized I've never really fasted before. So you mean to tell me you're a believer and you've never seen the power and the benefits of fasting and prayer? And so that's what I'm saying, that there's so much to this, more than just I stopped doing one thing. You really start to develop spiritual disciplines. And then I also realized there were certain podcasts that I would listen to, and I think one of the podcasts I remember, one of her sponsors started talking about sex toys, and I think you should pleasure yourself. And I literally was like, I can't watch this anymore. Or I would watch a show and I'm like, oh, this seems like a cool actress, and then a sex scene would pop up. And this is where, like, you're realizing your spirit is being I can't consume anything. Like, I have to be so on top of what I am consuming, what I am hearing, what I am watching, what I am speaking, And so that was a real cleansing of my own spirit, of purging and being mindful of what stuff I'm watching, what stuff I'm listening to. And I love that podcast. But once, they said what they said, I said, I can't. And just the other day, literally, I was watching a show and they were talking about some medium or sidekick, and I turned it off, because you realize when you expose your spirit to different things, and it's not always a sexual scene or cussing, it just can be anything that you realize is not of God, you have to be on guard. Like, it really may seem like you're just being sensitive. It's not that serious. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so I'm at a level now where in 2022, God's working on me, and, I'm going through all the stuff I'm going through, and I'm realizing, like, all right, I'm still believing God for different things. And God starts giving me dreams and visions of, okay, this is where I'm taking you. And then you get to 2023. And 2023 was a really interesting year, because I realized that with everything, all the fasting I did for that last year, it was a time in my life where God was just shifting, my job that I ended up moving for, there were so many things happening there. And I remember how, I was believing God in so many different areas, but I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but I was just living my life, like, I didn't want to overthink it. I just wanted to live it. But I remember how God would speak to me about certain things, about warnings of what not to do. Because one thing I realized in the past, I never allowed him in enough. And he's not a stranger danger. He wants to be like, are you going to let me in? I'm not going to force myself on you. I'm a gentleman. Either you want me here or you don't. And the more I invited him in, the more I was able to hear him. And when I say I was able to hear God's voice in 23 like no other, God was speaking to me. God kept giving me visions. And the walk, while it still isn't easy, it's been such a testament. I've had health issues that have nothing to do with, me waiting for me. But it's just different things that happen, and you realize, you meet people, and people are going to look at you, and, and sometimes I still have weak moments. And one of the things I remember talking about, I think it was in 22 or 23, I can't remember, but I remember one of the comments I had on one of my, people are just like, just pray it away. Just pray your urges all away. And I'm like, please don't do that. Well, I personally think you shouldn't, right? So I realized, like, all right, I'm not praying it away. I'm praying for self-control, but I'm not going to pray for it to go. Because I'm going to need that one day. I don't know when, but I will. Okay. So, I had to learn that while, yeah, it's difficult, but unless God is really calling you to that life where you're completely going to, live for Him, not have a spouse, just be about ministry, be about your purpose. But most people, they're going to have a person. There are those rare cases that, people are not going to, and they just commit to ministry and all of that. But I realized that was, yeah. Then cut to 2024. I started the year off in a really good space. And I felt like, I was meeting people and situations that really God was confirming over and over and over again. And my medical situation actually ended up recently getting worse. And while I'm grateful for all the different places that I've been and all the different things that I'm doing, I'm still very much walking this out with God every day, every year. And I realized that I never told my full story, my full lessons, my full reflections of it all. And there's more to the story that I haven't quite gone over yet. That did happen in 2020. And maybe one day, once everything is what it's going to be, I will talk about that. But I'm currently in a new relationship now. And while God has really shown me a lot of things, I still have to be faithful. And it doesn't mean it's easy. And it doesn't mean that I always know what to do, because I don't. He's been testing me. And it's been a really amazing year of growth for me. And I'm just looking forward to learning more about myself, because I feel like, honestly, the journey doesn't stop after you get married. There's always going to be areas of your life that you need to be mindful of, that you need to be pure with, that you need to be aware. And I'm glad that I decided and I stuck with it. I'm not saying it was easy, because up until 2017, I was kind of like, here and there. For a good 4 years, I was just whatever. I got to a point where I was just like, I'm going to just do me. I don't care. I know I ain't, and you go through all of those seasons. But one thing God did in 2017, he allowed that situation to break me in a way that I was like, enough is enough. You get to a point where you can't take it no more. That it ain't even worth it no more. And that's what had to happen. It was devastation, heartbreak that really woke me up. And I'm glad he did it that way, because maybe clearly I had to go through it that way. And I haven't always gotten it right, but I feel like it's important because I'm still in the season. It didn't just end. I'm still in it. But thinking about right now, next month is October, it'll be 7 years at least consistently of, me really purging myself, going through the motions and growing with God in this area. And I really do wish blessings on anyone that's listening and anyone that realizes that everybody goes through it, and not enough people get into this much detail. And I said, something in my spirit said, record this, because you're going to want to look back and remember all of the things, because there were so many things that I kind of wish I did record in those moments, but I didn't always. But I can start now. And I do remember certain powerful moments and certain people that I met. And I'm just grateful to God for each person I met, because they all taught me things. It was never a waste. God used every single thing. Even if I didn't, quote unquote, involve him in it, he still used it. And so I'm very much grateful for my journey. I know that it was messy, and I know I'm still in it, but I'm praying that someone gets blessed, and I'm already blessed. But that's that.